Thank you for joining us today on American Feed Industry Association's Retail Distributor Guidance on Veterinary Feed Directive. Today's presentation will focus on what retailers need to know in understanding Veterinary Feed Directive. I'm Preston Buff, Director of Regulatory Affairs at AFIA, and I'll be leading you through today's presentation. The Veterinary Feed Directive was an idea that came forward in a coalition led by AFIA. It arose because the FDA was to make all new antibiotics into prescription drugs for medicated feed. Such a change would have caused the state pharmacy boards to require a pharmacist in each feed mill, which is a very costly proposal. So we devised the VFD, which, as the law says, is not a prescription under the state or federal law. Unfortunately, 20 years later, we did not expect FDA to go back and make old drugs into VFD drugs, but that's what we have today. VFD only applies to drugs approved for use in feed, not oral drugs such as pills or injectable or water-soluble drugs, which all require a prescription. Thus, the point of this presentation is to help you understand your role in fulfilling the requirements of the law and the VFD rule. The term VFD applies to both the form as well as the drug. The form authorizes the producer to use the VFD containing medicated feed in a manner that is listed on the VFD form. It's specific for a group of animals at a specific location, both listed on the form. And it must be reauthorized when the feed runs out. One copy of this form is kept by the veterinarian, and that's the original copy. And then the producer as well as the feed distributor also have to keep a copy for 2 years. A few legal issues that you may need to be aware of is one, it is a criminal felony to knowingly feed a VFD medicated feed without a legal VFD. Producers also are not allowed to loan their VFD containing feed to other producers. VFD containing feed must be fed at the level that's listed on the VFD form to the animals that are listed on the VFD form in accordance with the federal rule for each specific drug. If the time limit on the VFD expires during the feeding time, then another VFD must be written and obtained before the feeding can restart. This diagram displays the VFD process. First, the veterinarian will write the VFD order and keep one copy for his or her records. Next, the veterinarian will give 2 copies to the producer, one for the producer's records and one to give to the distributor to have the medicated feed order filled. The distributor will keep that copy for their records. In some cases, the veterinarian will give the VFD directly to the distributor. In the case of electronic VFD, the veterinarian will write the VFD and the producer and distributor will receive their copies at the same time via electronic format. Before the distributor can sell the feed, they must notify the FDA with a letter of intent to distribute. The distributor must also send a letter of acknowledgement to the drug supplier or to the feed mill where they receive their medicated feed. Both of these will be discussed in more detail on the next slide. There are a few things you should know before you begin distributing medicated VFD feed. First, under VFD regulation, a distributor means any person who distributes a medicated feed containing a VFD drug to another person. Also, distributors are required to notify FDA prior to the first time you distribute animal feed containing a VFD drug. You also must provide a letter of acknowledgement to the distributor or feed mill that you receive product from before distributing a VFD feed. This letter states that you will not distribute the VFD containing product without a similar letter or a valid VFD. Additionally, you can distribute VFD feed to another distributor or to the client recipient of a VFD. You must get a written acknowledgement letter from the receiving distributor before distributing the VFD feed, as you had provided one to your distributor. And also you must get a copy of the VFD containing all the pertinent information required by the regulation before distributing the VFD feed to a client recipient. Now we'll take a moment to read the definition as supplied by the FDA. A VFD is a written, nonverbal statement issued by a licensed veterinarian that authorizes the use of a VFD drug or combination VFD drug in or on animal feed. This written statement authorizes the client, who is the owner of the animals or other caretaker, to obtain and use animal feed bearing or containing a VFD drug or combination drug to treat the client's animals only in accordance with the conditions for use approved, conditionally approved, or indexed by the FDA. A VFD is also referred to as a VFD order. This slide lists all the elements which are required on a VFD to make the VFD form legal. First, the veterinarian's name, address, and telephone number, the client's name, business or home address, and telephone number, the premises where the animals specified on the VFD order are located, the date the VFD order was issued, the expiration date of the VFD order, name of the VFD drug or drugs identified on the form, species and production class of the animals to be fed in the VFD feed, approximate number of animals to be fed the VFD feed by the expiration date of the VFD order, reason the VFD order was issued, so this would be the indication, level of VFD drug in the feed and the duration of use, the withdrawal time, special instructions, and cautionary statements necessary to use the drug according to its approved labeling, the number of reorders, which would be authorized if it's permitted by the drug's approval or conditional approval or index listing, the required statement, which is use of feed containing this veterinary feed directive, VFD, drug in a manner other than is directed on the labeling, extra label or off-label use is not permitted. The affirmation of intent and combination VFD drugs, this will be addressed in later slides, and the veterinarian's electronic or written signature. These 19 drugs are those which are VFD drugs. They are determined by the FDA to be medically important in human medicine and thus are regulated as VFD drugs. As you can see, several of these drugs are not marketed, which are apomycin, erythromycin, oleandomycin. Some drugs were classified as VFD before 2017, and these are avilamycin, florfenicol, and telmicin. Please note that penicillin is no longer available to be used in feed. So these drugs on the previous list are now under the control of a veterinarian via a VFD. This includes many feed drugs except dewormers, carbadox, bambamycins, ionophores, bacitracin, and a few others that will not change. VFDs will be required for each use of a drug. This includes FFA and 4-H use. The caretaker in this case will be the teacher or the FFA staff. There are some practical issues you should be aware of. The original VFD form is retained by the veterinarian, and copies go to the producer and the feed distributor. Faxed VFDs as well as electronic VFDs are allowed. Phone-in VFDs, however, are not allowed. The feed mills and distributors can distribute smaller amounts of feed than what's listed on the VFD and save the rest for later. Delivering a VFD feed to the farm before the producer has a VFD form is problematic. This is because a VFD medicated feed cannot be stocked by a producer without a valid VFD form unless this producer is a feed distributor. The affirmation of intent statement is which the veterinarian would select one of three choices. First, this VFD only authorizes the use of the VFD drug cited in this order and is not intended to authorize the use of such drugs in combination with any other animal drug. This means that when the veterinarian selects this box, that only this VFD feed can be fed to these animals. Or number two, this VFD authorizes the use of the VFD drug cited in this order in the following FDA-approved, conditionally approved, or index combinations in medicated feed that contains the VFD drug as a component. What this means is that this drug can be fed only with specified legal combinations. Or selection 3. This VFD authorizes the use of the VFD drug cited in this order in any FDA-approved, conditionally approved, or index combination medicated feed that contains a VFD drug as a component. What this means is that this drug can be fed with any approved drug by the FDA. Generic drugs can be used even if the trade name is listed on the VFD form as long as the veterinarian does not object in writing on the form. Now we'll take you through a VFD form and the required elements. First, the veterinarian's name, address, and telephone number. The client's name, business, and or home address and telephone number. The name of the VFD drug and the level of VFD drug in the feed and the duration of use. The species and production class of animal. Any refills if they are allowed. The cautionary statement and the reason the VFD form was issued, which is also known as the indication. The required VFD statement, which reads, use of feed containing this veterinary feed directive VFD drug in a manner other than is directed on the labeling, extra label use is not permitted. The approximate number of animals, the premises where the animals specified on the VFD order are located, any special instructions, the affirmation of intent. In this case, box number 2 is selected, which is showing that it is an approved combination with another drug. The withdrawal time, the date the VFD order was issued, the expiration date of the VFD order, and finally, the veterinarian's signature. For more information on VFD and medicated feed, please visit the FDA's website, which we'll pause for a moment to give you a chance to write the website down. We thank you for participating in today's presentation, Retail Guidance on Veterinary Feed Directive. We hope that this has prepared you to better handle VFD orders. For more information on AFIA, please visit our website at afia.org.